I mean, I grew up in Australia, and having, Wayne Gardner, Mick Doohan, especially Mick, being, one of the greats, if not one of the greatest ever. I think he won, 5 championships in a row. So as far as like, growing up in the moto world and everything like that, it was there. He got a lot of publicity. And then like the Mladen's, the Goberts, everybody like that. And they all started in moto, so I knew who Anthony was and Matt and everybody like that. So my natural connection to road racing was always there, and it was always strong, and always wanted to be a world champ. I don't know if I'd say I want to be a world champ, but always wanted to be competing against the best in the world, and nobody was able to really do that from motocross. So there was a point in my early years, 16, 17 years old, that I was like, man, I want to go and switch to road racing. That was what Matt did, and also Anthony, and they were very competitive, juniors, amateurs, whatever you want to call it. Anthony went on to be very successful in motocross and supercross as a pro, and then switched over to World Superbike and MotoGP. So kind of seeing the route that no one was really being who you really wanted to be in motocross. I thought that was going to be my route too, but it just didn't work out as far as always wanted to do it, but then mom and dad seemed to shut it down always. Like I would kind of talk to the manufacturer and get it all lined up, and then somehow, some way, it got kind of shut down. So so that's kind of where it was. Basically, loving it for one, but more than anything, just being, like maybe even like I thought about it a lot as a kid, that was maybe my route.
And there's a lot of similarities, but it's a totally different world too.
Yeah, I think in so many ways racing's racing, whether it's 2 wheels, 4 wheels. It takes a unique individual and a unique way of thinking and doing things. So I don't know that ever changes from sport to sport, but definitely has its unique ways and things that you need to do and what you need to be better at and all those things. But very, very closer than you would imagine, I think.
Yeah. Well, and the big thing is too, because they can't ride their bikes, so they go moto.
Yeah.
Ride flat track. I mean, I remember in the first faster one where, Val's dad's super pissed because he got hurt. So that's the only way they can do it, is if they get on a dirt bike.
Yeah, and then and if for the most part, if you've seen any of those guys ride dirt bikes, they should not ride dirt bikes.
No, it elbows down.
So, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I think I would probably be the same, if I jump on a street bike, and they'd probably think the same thing. But, definitely Valley, I'm good friends with Valley, and so I use him always as an example just because I've been around him most and have a great relationship. But, him on a dirt bike on a flat track and everything like that, I think that's a pretty controlled environment. He's very, very fast and strong at that, has a place at his house. So I think that, that's more of a closer feeling and kind of replicating what they need to do. Marquez and, Miller, a lot of those guys riding dirt bikes. They kind of have a little bit of a, more of a dirt bike background. Mark seems pretty decent, like some things I watch and I'm like, oh, like I'm a little nervous for him. But other times he's very, quite competitive. Bradley Smith also, a motocross background, and rides very, good and strong. So I always laugh because those guys, they ride 1000cc MotoGP bikes with, ridiculous amount of horsepower, and what are they doing, 150 plus miles an hour, and they always get on a dirt bike and ride a 250F, and I always laugh at that. It's kind of funny that, here we are riding 450s, and for me it's not a big deal, but that's my normal, where when those guys go back, and they're so small, like they're like jockeys, they weigh 115 pounds, whatever it is. So it's definitely funny.
So then, Did your relationship with a lot of those guys go through Yamaha because they had such a global support? Is that how you're so close to some people now?
Yeah, I mean, some of my relationships, through Yamaha, but a lot of it more is, Valley's people and mechanics and technicians and all that around him. Most of them, over 50% of them are all, Australian or New Zealand. So, same crew that Mick Doohan had. So, having those guys and knowing those guys, that kind of breaks the ice, I guess, and then I was fortunate enough, I want to say 2004, 2005, maybe 05, I think it was the first year that MotoGP came to Laguna, and we were also celebrating 60th anniversary. Actually, I say 60th, but just the 50th anniversary, which is funny because I see now it's all 60th anniversary, but back then it was 50th, and Valley and I were the two, premier Yamaha guys. So that was one of the first times that I got to meet him in person. I always had one of his helmets, growing up in Australia. I was a Fox guy as an early pro, and Fox down there their helmet wasn't big. They had AGV importer as well. And I remember just being, super stoked to get a Valley replica helmet and things like that. So when I, got introduced to a pretty big crowd, and I was more excited to, stand alongside Valley, somewhat as equals, with Yamaha. Him being MotoGP champion, I was the Supercross champ the year before. So as far as two wheels, we were the two guys. So it was a pretty special moment.
So the thing that interests me so much about it, the speed's awesome, and how they compete around the world is amazing. But I get to be a super fan of it. Like, I get to go read about because here I, for the most part, know what's going on. Like, you guys don't tell me what's actually 100% what's happening, but I have a pretty good idea. But for you, like, you get to be super fan of it too. Is that what the interest of it is?
I would, I would say I'm a super fan. I enjoy it. I don't click on. And I don't know why, but like I don't click on moto links. I don't, if I see stuff, whether it be, TransWorld, RacerX, whatever the media outlets are, I don't click on that stuff to read it, where all the MotoGP media outlets that I follow, like I'm interested in, I fan out, and I'm interested to read, and I guess knowing enough about it and knowing enough of the people and things like that. A lot of what you read and when you watch an interview or you watch or read interview, you can read between the lines and you kind of get a feeling of what's kind of happening. Probably one of my most frustrating things is Casey. I'm a fan, and being Aussie and growing up less than a mile away from him when we were kids and all that kind of stuff. It, in one way it breaks my heart that, here he is, 30 years old, and, takes over a year off of riding a MotoGP bike and comes back and he's fourth fastest in testing, and just such a talented individual. But, people all have their own reasonings and everything like that. But for me, it's just, as an elder guy and, seeing things that, throughout the world, and I mean, I wish he would go racing, and just enjoy it. It's for whatever reason he can't find that happy place in a racing environment, and each to their own. But yeah, it's selfishly, I wish that he would come back racing and get amongst it.
So then, last week, I saw your Instagram and that was what reminded me. Oh man, they're testing this week. How close do you follow all that stuff? You said you watched the live feed and everything? Yeah, I watched the live feed. It was a 3-day test, and they're in Malaysia, and being here in California, it was always perfect timing. Like you get done with dinner around 6:30. Get the kids a little bit more motivated to get the kids to bed by 7:30, and sitting on the couch with your feet up at 7:45, 8 o'clock, getting ready to watch, watch kind of almost like Time Attack, and watching the times and everything. So yeah, I enjoy it. And then while I
I know the environment. You know, it's like when we go testing, it's like you're busy but you're not. And you know, sitting there, seeing the times and seeing what's going on, and then you know, texting with you know, I don't know that I should say this, but you know, texting with some of the Yamaha mechanics and getting a real insight and a finger on the pulse of what's really happening. Hope I'm not throwing those guys under the bus, but you know, just I'm sure those guys tell me things that you know they wouldn't share with the open world, and I'm not gonna share it. But it's fun. It's like I'm a tech guy. I love it. You know, like since the introduction of fuel injection into moto and the software and the electronics that we have available to us, it's a lot of fun. You know, coming off of 5 years of being a team owner, and then now coming over here to Yamaha and just having more freedom, more space, working directly with a factory. I find it fun, you know, like when I do a start, I want to see it, you know, like we can see everything we're doing, you know, RPM, everything like that. So I feel like that if you know a little about it or enough about it, you can make yourself a better rider and pick up on things. So we all have access to it, but not all of us use it to its full advantage. So for me, I just try to learn enough about it to be a little dangerous, I guess.
It was funny because like last year when I bumped into you at Austin, like I knew you would be there, but then like you go out of your way to go to these places too. So on race day there, are you just as excited to say me or just any other casual fan is here on a
Yeah, I
Saturday
mean,
night?
it's, you know, you're a racer, and you know, to stand on you know, stand on at the start and stand on the pit wall and you know, listen to what is it, 22, 23, 24 MotoGP bikes, you know, all hanging off the rev limiter and dropping the clutch and taking off. It's the roar, it's the, you know, that makes your, you know, skin get all excited, and you know, it's just, I love it. You know, you can't do it, so then why not just be a fan and be as big of a part of it? And I'm fortunate, like I said, you know, like I have you know, enough people and up and down the pit lane know me, so for the most part I can walk in and out of most garages and you know, kind of get a little bit of a view and you know, see the bikes and things like that. So you know, and those guys are just like me. I mean, just like I like their sport, they respect our sport and love it. Just yesterday, you know, Jorge stopped by the Yamaha test track and got to check it out, and I believe that was his first time seeing it live. And you know, and knowing the feel, you know, the feeling that I get when I stand on, you know, pit road and watching them, the acceleration and the speed, and then seeing his face and kind of relating to what I feel when I watch them, I saw the same thing, you know. So yeah, it's cool that totally different sports respecting each other and loving it.